Mr. Fuentes here again. Today we are going to start another class in the shop for the machine safety. What we have for today is we're going to go ahead and do two machines, the chop saw and the Burr King. And the chop saw and the Burr King are integral parts for integral machines for smaller parts when we're trying to get them to a certain size and deburred. We have talked about different things like the deburring tools, the file, the deburring tool itself, making sure that you grind it down or sand it down to try and keep the burrs off of the piece of material. Well, this is like showing you the process of cutting it, then deburring it. What we're going to cover today is our tool selection, our safety inspection of the machines themselves, the metal properties, the safe operations of the two machines, the changing of cutters or a belt if we think it's in time to change. We're going to clean the machines and replace the tools. So we have an extended tool list for this class. If you would take a look, we have a tape measure and a marker. So it wouldn't take a lot to do what you have to cut the material and to make sure that it's deburred. The first machine that we were going to talk about is the chop saw. The chop saw itself has a metal cutting disc, which is right here, and it has guards to protect you if anything should happen, if the disc should come apart. One of the safety features that this is very important that you see is that the chop saw needs to be in this configuration every time you leave it. If you finish cutting, you don't leave the chop saw up, because if somebody should hit the trigger, it could really hurt somebody. The safety pin, which we will look at it when we move to a different direction, but the safety pin is in the back right here, and what you need to do is press down on the chop saw and pull the pin out. A couple of the most important parts of this is actually the vise that you're working with. If you take a look, maybe if we could get a close-up, you will notice that these are in graduations 0, 15, 30, and 45. Those are angles. If you want to do a piece and cut it at an angle, you can set your vise at an angle. The notch or the witness mark should be on the far right-hand side of the slot right there. So at this time, it's set at 0. You would loosen this up, set it on the witness mark on the right-hand side as close as you can. This is eyeball. Then tighten this up so it doesn't go anywhere. Now, if you take a look at this angle, this is a 15-degree angle from 90. This part of the vise swivels. So when you put it in here, it'll line right up. It'll line up with the 15 degrees. One of the things that's real easy is you have this part up front that has threads on it right here that matches the threads here. So if we have a piece of material that goes inside here to cut, we put it to the shape that it is, and this is kind of small. Put that down, the latch, and what it does is it tightens up with the threads. To take it off easy, you just loosen it up, pull that back, and pull your vise back. Earlier we were talking about the safety pin. This is the safety pin. Once you put this in that position, it locks this down. So if anybody should walk by and they accidentally hit the trigger, which I don't see how they could do it, it won't hurt you. If the pin is not put where it was supposed to, see all this right here? This is potential for hurt. One of the things that you have to remember with the chop saw is it's designed for smaller material. This isn't where you put a 2-inch piece of round stock inside the chop saw and expect it to work. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that it's at least a 1/2 inch or less. Sometimes we will take a look at some of the round stock, and 5/8 of an inch is really pushing it. So we're going to go ahead and stay at a 1/2 inch or less. The good thing about the chop saw, you can use any shape. One of the safety procedures that we have to make sure that we follow with this chop saw, not only is eye protection, but hearing protection. Hearing protection in the shop are 2 ways. They have the disposable ear protection, which is located near the door as we first come in. You could use them multiple times, but I think we're going to go ahead and keep it where if you use one, you throw it away, and then we'll go ahead and get a newer one. There's more than enough to do what we have to. The other protection is what we call defenders. The defenders go on your ears to protect from any of the hearing noises that we're going to have problems with. So the thing that you want to make sure if you're using the disposable earplugs, make sure your hands are clean. Wash them and make sure that they're clean before you roll it up and put it in your ears. It's nothing like getting a dirty hands, rolling up your earplugs and put it in your ears. That could cause problems in itself. So always make sure you clean your hands before you use the disposable earphones. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we're going to go ahead and set this at a 90-degree cut. So we're going to loosen this up, place the 0 on the right-hand side of the slot right here, and we're going to go ahead and measure off 1 inch. Now let's cut 2 inches. Now a lot of times we had talked about the allowances in our last couple of classes, right? Plus or minus a 1/16 is what we usually do inside the shop here in a welding shop. So that's a big difference depending on what we're doing, and sometimes the tolerance might be unilateral where it could be plus a 1/16 minus none. So that means it definitely has to be cut. After we cut this, we're going to go to the board and I'll explain what a kerf is, and that's K-E-R-F. The kerf is the width of your cutter. So when you put it in here, you have to take that in consideration before you cut it. So, before we start cutting, you have to realize that the left-hand side of this cutter is what we're measuring off of. So if our residue is what's left here, What you want to do is take in consideration the width. Since we're cutting from this side, we have to make sure that it's going to cut for you. On the mark that you put in there. Make sure that before you start your cut, that that's tight. You have your hearing protection on. And you have your eye protection. Again, what you can do is use more than one eye protection. So in the shop, of course, we have the face shield that we could use also. Because of the defenders that are on, we might have a hard time putting your face shield on, so make sure that your glasses are fitting nice and tight. So, when we cut this, you want to have a gradual force down onto the piece of material. What that does is it lets the machine do its work. We talked about that when we were on the vertical bandsaw. Let the machine do its work. So you want to bring it down, and your guards will automatically go to where it needs to. Okay, we're going to turn this on. We're going to place our safety latch in so that it does not go anywhere. One of the things that you need to have that is usually near the chop saw is a pair of pliers. This is going to be hot, right? So we're going to take this, I'm going to take it, quench it, and then we're going to go to the next step, okay? Okay, so what we want to do so we can save ourselves from burns, you want to make sure that you have your gloves with you. So we've used 3 types of safety. We've used the eye protection, the hearing protection, and now the gloves for the heat protection. So if you take a look where it was cut, that's where, of course, the hottest portion is. We're going to come over here to the quench tank. And anytime you come to my quench tank, you want to make sure that you have gloves on, because when you put a hot piece of metal in there, steam comes up and it can burn you. Okay, so that cooled down pretty well. Now, if you take a look at the piece itself, there's a lot of edges here that could cut you. So you got to be careful when you're moving this, because it can cut you, and it will. So what we're going to do is we're going to deburr this and make sure it's a flat position, and then we'll make sure that we cut it to the position that it was, or the length that it needs to be. Okay.